My name's Brian Honan and I'm CEO of BH Consulting, an independent cybersecurity firm based here in Dublin, Ireland, and we've been operating since 2004. I also set up Ireland's first computer emergency response team, CERT, which was established in 2008, and we're still going, and we have our annual conference coming up on November the 10th. So if people want to come to Dublin for one of the top cybersecurity conferences in Ireland, if not Europe, you're very welcome to come along. I've also lectured in cybersecurity in University College Dublin and the Maastricht University, and I spent 4 years as a special advisor to Europol on internet security. How I got into technology, I suppose I was always a tinkerer when I was growing up. I remember being in primary school in Ireland when I was in my 5th or 6th class, so maybe 11 years of age or so. One of the projects the teacher gave us was to build your own radio receiver. So that was built out of copper wire and clothes hangers and stuff, and that really got me interested in that. So anytime, my parents used to hate it because anytime they bought anything new electronically, I'd take it apart just to see how it would work and try to put it back together again. I never got my hands on the television though, which is probably a good thing, you know. So yeah, then I left school, got a job working in an insurance company, not in their IT department, but more in their insurance renewals division. So being a paper pusher as such, but they had an internal post for somebody to join their IT department to look after these new things called personal computers. So that was back in 1987, I think. So my first computer was an IBM PC-1, which had two 5.25-inch floppy drives and a green screen, and that was the cutting-edge technology back then. So that's where it all started. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting question because I was lucky where I worked. As the company was Irish Life, as I said, it was the biggest life assurance provider in Ireland at the time. So it used IT a lot, but it was predominantly mainframe and it had been using the mainframe from the 60s onwards. So they had a very good IT department with lots of excellent disciplines on securing and managing and keeping a mainframe up and running. So as the PCs grew more popular and cheaper, and the company could see the advantages of moving certain data and functions from the mainframe onto PCs and network and mini computers, we actually brought the disciplines from the mainframe down onto the PC world. So I have to admit, not being a mainframe person, there were times I was frustrated by all this process and paperwork, and we're just getting in the way of getting things done. Whereas in hindsight, those fundamentals have stuck with me, and lots of stuff I learned back in the late 80s, early 90s. We're still seeing companies not doing them today, and it's carried on from there. But getting into security, what really kicked it off was one of the computers got hit by a computer virus. And nobody knew what a computer virus was. And there was no internet really then. There was no Google to look at. And I had a copy of a computer magazine, and in the back of it was an advert for a piece of software called Dr. Solomon's Antivirus Toolkit. And I remember ringing up our IT supplier and asking him for this software, and he tried to convince me it was a spoof ad. There was no such thing as this. How can something like this be real? But ironically enough, he managed to get me a copy of the software and set up his own business selling security solutions on the back of it as well. So I suppose from small acorns, all this stuff has grown, So yeah, we used that to deal with that virus outbreak. We had one or two more. And then people started to go, hey, we've had a virus outbreak. Brian, can you help us with it? And that's you know, I found that with the security community, there was no, while you worked for your company and you'd done your best to deliver for your company, there was always a sense of community that if somebody else was in trouble, you're able to reach out and advise people and, provide you aren't breaking any competitive or business issues. You're helping somebody saying, yeah, look, this is how you fix this problem. And, that's where it's been. It's been in an area that has fascinated me ever since, and even today, I continue to learn new things, which is great. Yeah, no, it actually is funny you say that, Karl, because I have a phrase that people roll their eyes when I say it. Now, look, we're all familiar with script kiddies, where we know what that phrase is. The, it's the inexperienced hacker, and I'm using quotation marks with around the word hacker there, who downloads a tool and points it at a website or a system and runs it and hopes to be able to hack into it. So that's a script kiddie. They're using somebody else's tool that they've no understanding of how it works or what it does. I also would like to say we have, unfortunately, on the network admin side, we have what I call click kiddies. People who will click on this, set up next, finish. Yay, I've set up a web server, or I've set up a DNS server, or I've set up this server, or whatever. Do they know how it works? Do they know the fundamentals underneath it? How fragile the whole internet actually is? Probably not, yeah, so coming back to your question, yes, click kiddies, I think, can be just as dangerous as script kiddies. Oh, we all have, yeah. Yeah. Oh, it worked. Don't change that. Yeah, well, like we had to, so we decentralized data center, a mainframe. There's two elements to it. Number one was there were systems being downsized and right size was the phrase they used back in the day, onto working on mini and microcomputers and client server architecture and stuff. So, there was that element. But you also had then people's computers, or sorry, the computers they're using on their desks were changing from being dumb terminals, which were old IBM terminals that were connected right back into the mainframe, to being PCs. So you had both to, where previously with a mainframe, you just had to worry about the mainframe. If your terminal got hacked or whatever, well, it couldn't because it was just a dumb, keyboard and screen. There was nothing else really there. But now you had PCs which had hard disks, floppy disks, eventually bigger disks, bigger, USB drives, etc., CD drives, which people could and wanted to copy data onto, not out of any maliciousness, but just to get works done. So, yeah, it's it's funny how when you're in the industry long enough, you see how things happen in cycles. Like I lived through the first, maybe the first few cycles of decentralized PCs with Citrix and all that sort of stuff, and now we're coming back to it with virtual workstations again. So it's interesting to see how things go. Yeah, I always had the bug to run my own business, and uh, when I did work for Irish Life, I actually had my side business as well. We were working and advising a company on developing a security product for Windows PCs back then, Windows 3.0, Windows 3.1. And the tool we're developing provided disk encryption, user access management control, because PCs back then, there were, anybody who'd access the computer could use it. So we're trying to bring those things in, but unfortunately, it never succeeded, took off. But I ran that as a side project, and that gave me the bug. When I left Irish Life, I joined a Swiss consulting firm for 4 years. That gave me the consulting bug. I then joined a company in 2002, which was providing an online foreign exchange trading platform, which will be called the cloud now, but back then was an ASP, application service provider. And unfortunately, it was victim of the dot bomb, and I then took a job up for 2 years running a managed security service provider from 2000 to 2004. And in 2004, I kind of went, hang on, I'm doing a lot of work, doing a lot of hours. Uh, I saw there was a lack of independent advice for companies that had security problems. Back in 2003, 2004, if you had a security problem, you rang up your IT provider, and they might send an engineer in, and the engineer would say, "Oh yeah, you need a new firewall." And 5 minutes later, you get a phone call from the sales guy going, "Oh, we happen to have firewalls in stock. We can do you a special offer." So, and I knew then, coming based on my experience, technology is an important element in cybersecurity, but so is process, so is policy, so is responsibility and roles and etc. So helping companies manage security, you have to put that framework in. And I felt the only way you could do it was being an independent advisor, consulting firm. And I figured, well, if I'm going to do that, I may as well do it for myself, and instead of working hard for somebody else, make them money, see if I can do it for myself. So I still haven't found the secret of making lots of money, but enjoying the work so far. Oh, look, running your own business, and particularly in cybersecurity, it's a very much a roller coaster, right? So first of all, being a business owner, you're starting out by yourself, and you're looking to build things up, and you have to manage the business, manage risk, and like my father also told me that, Brian, when you hire somebody, you have to remember they don't work for you. You actually work for them. You have to make sure they have enough of a salary that they pay their mortgage at the end of the month, because you promised them you paid. So you are the last person to get paid in your company. And very wise words from my late father, and I've stuck by them ever since. So you do have trials and tribulations. Obviously Ireland had the big economic impact from the downturn in 2008. There was lots of issues there. Uh, in cybersecurity, you have uh, big waves of interest in cybersecurity is really important, and then interest drives off. So you have to try and manage that. And you know, we've built the business now, so we're now between full time and part time and associates. We're just short of 30 people now, with clients worldwide in many different sectors. So yeah, it's an interesting ride, and as the company grows and the business grows, your role changes. You can't be the CEO anymore. You can't be the person who goes in on an instant and starts analyzing the logs, because your energy is better spent in making sure you've got enough work to keep other people uh, busy. So yeah, but I still enjoy it. I still enjoy it, Karl. Look, I'm very, very lucky. I've a fantastic team of people around me who are just amazing. Like nearly every day, I go, "Wow, that's brilliant." Somebody's knocked it out of the park for us, and I'm a lucky man, and so hopefully we'll stay lucky. Yeah, Irish CERT it's called, well, the full name is the Irish Reporting and Information Security Service. That's the official name, but Irish CERT is its more colloquial or shorter name. So I suppose when I set my own business up, Karl, as well, I could see, look, there's a gap in the industry here in Ireland. Like, we back then we didn't have a computer emergency response team, and if I looked at other Western nations like the US, UK, France, Germany, other countries, they all had computer emergency response teams, which were providing services to their citizens and their businesses. Here in Ireland, we didn't have that, and I thought it was kind of ironic, given that, especially back in the early 2000s, that Ireland was promoting itself as uh, the technology hub of Europe and the Silicon Valley of Europe, that we were not ensuring the infrastructure that companies would rely on would be secure. And like most countries, the majority of industry are SMEs. They're small businesses you know, who can't afford maybe that dedicated IT or resources, and especially many, even fewer, can have dedicated security resources. So I approached said, okay, maybe it's time to do something about this. Maybe I should help the government set something up. So I did approach the Irish government through, the great thing about being Irish, you're only one or two people away from somebody you need to get in touch with. So I approached some key people in the Irish government and said, look, I think we need a computer emergency response team. And the response was kind of lukewarm. It was kind of, well, we've had no major requirements, or nobody thinks we really need one. And sure, if anything goes wrong, I'm sure we could be able to solve things. And so I took it upon myself to go and lobby to see what was it really, was I trying to build a field of dreams, if people remember that movie. If I build it, will they come? Or was I just being a Don Coyote and fighting windmills here? So I went out and I engaged with various business bodies and asked them what their thoughts were and opinions were, and various security bodies here in Ireland. And the feedback was all in the, yes, it's a great idea, we need something like this and we would use it. So provided the information to the Irish government. Nothing really happened, and then we had the DDoS attack against Estonia. Suddenly, oh yes, maybe a CERT isn't such a bad idea after all, and more conversations. But again, I suppose it's like, even if people listen to this podcast, move it to their own business, a major issue will happen, so security becomes really important, and then if nothing is done, it just kind of drifts away. And that kind of happened as well. So I said, okay, look, this is lasting. This is not going anywhere. So what I need to do is do this myself. So I was able to set up Irish CERT as a not-for-profit organization. There are some like-minded individuals in the security community here in Ireland who volunteered to work with me on it. We got some funding. The Science Institute were a big supporter of us early in the day and gave us enough funding to get us off the ground. And we started ourselves in 2008 and have been operating ever since. Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things we do as a cybersecurity consulting firm is, obviously, we evaluate the security controls our clients have in place. So one of our clients is a pharmaceutical company, and they asked us, yeah, look, can you test our security? And we went, okay, well, what do you mean test our security? What is the thing that keeps you awake most at night? And it turned out their biggest worry was the insider threat. What would happen if, you know, a competitor or a rogue nation state was to compromise an employee or get an employee in the business, or an employee decided to go rogue? What's the worst thing they could do? So that's the scenario we went with. So we actually worked with the CISO, who worked with the local IT manager of the plant here in Dublin and their HR person, and we had one of my team actually start working for the IT department on a Monday morning as if they were a new employee. So this person rocked up, hello, it's my first day in the job, and so they're treated like they were any other new employee would be treated. They were given their laptop, escorted to their cubicle, given all the accepted usage policies and everything else you have to read in your first few days, do their induction, and then after a few days was able to start seeing, okay, what can we do? So like lots of companies, they had the laptops locked down. There was they didn't have local admin access to their laptop. So it's a good start. And in fairness, we have evaluated many companies who would give, especially somebody in IT, would give them local admin to their laptop. But my teammate was able to go and social engineer the support desk, saying that they were really busy and then they would need to install lots of software. And rather than annoy them and disrupt their day, give me the local admin access, and in a few days I'll tell you to remove it from you when I've all my software is installed. And that worked. Once they had local admin access, we were able to install a command and control agent on the laptop, which our pen testers then waiting outside were able to connect to remotely, and then we're able to remotely control that laptop. And from there, over the next few days, we scanned their network. Uh, we were able, and our employee on the inside as well was during their day was looking for stuff. So going through shares, seeing what permissions were on folders. If there's no permissions on folders, try and get information. Going into meeting rooms, seeing what code words or whatever else were on whiteboards, then doing searches of drives or folders or network shares for those words and coming back with any documents that they needed. We discovered that the firewalls keeping their operations network isolate from their office network. So the operations network would manage the manufacturing plant for the pharmaceuticals. Somebody put in any rule into the firewall, and nobody knew until So we came back and we presented to the CISO. Here's all these reports with these code words. One, the code word actually was a commercially sensitive project that was a new product that they hadn't even given a proper name to, and nobody should have been able to get access to it. And of course, being able to access the production network, which meant you could potentially, now we didn't try anything, of course, but potentially we could have disrupted the production line or altered the process. So maybe the drugs they're producing would not be as effective as they should be. So it was one of our more productive, and I'm using the word fun, but that's probably not how the CISO would describe it. But terrifying. But you know, the whole purpose of the exercise was to test the security controls, and it was to go back to the business and say, look, security is important because this is what happened. And like the engagement lasted just over a week, so it didn't take. If there was a rogue employee or an employee had been compromised or coerced in some way, it's better that we found the problems and they didn't discover them as a result of any malicious activity. It was, you know. Yeah. My other favorite story is one of my other clients engaged us to see again could we infiltrate their office, and we sent a whole lot of emails to people in the C-suite. We got an out of office message from the CEO actually saying they were on vacation and would not be returning until a certain date. So I arrived. I looked at their annual report, discovered who their auditors were, which is one of the big four firms. I then went on to one of the online business card printing websites, printed a business card with the logo of that big four company with my name, and as managing partner of such a division, and arrived at their office in my best suit with a hand airline uh, bag and my laptop bag. Arrive up at reception at 2 o'clock, which is one of the busiest times to go to receptionist because people come back from lunch, meetings are starting. Went to said to her, "I'm here for my meeting with the CEO." She rings up and then turns and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, but he's on holidays, he's on vacation." And so I throw a big stink. I go, "Oh my God, I've just flown in, I've just arrived, this meeting's been going on for 6 months, I'm part of your auditors, etc., etc. Please, can you sort this out?" So she starts getting busy ringing other people. I then ask, can I go and use the bathroom, which is behind the security doors, the security turnstiles. I go in, open up my bag, take out a change of clothes, and I dress like one of the employees, and then wait in the lift lobby, get in the lift. The lifts were swipe card controlled, but because there were crowds of people coming back at lunchtime, get in the lift with them, got out of the floor, sat down at an empty desk and plugged my laptop in. And just as I'd done that, lots of people started to gather around me, and I was going, "Oh dear, I've been caught." But it was a team meeting in the sales and marketing team, and they're discussing their sales and marketing plans for the next 6 months. So I took a picture of the meeting with my laptop and emailed it to the CISO, who happened to be 2 floors above me. Uh-oh. Oh yes, yeah, yeah. So that works quite well. USB drops still work quite well, and where you just put on a USB. Sometimes just leave them blank, or what really works is if you put a bit of Tipex on the back of the USB stick and put on, uh, uh, salary salary rates for 2023 or whatever the next year is, or and then you just drop them around various different car parks. But we did have one occasion where that wasn't as successful as we hoped. So one of my colleagues was doing the USB drop and was arrived at the premises of the client, got in the car park and decided to be inconspicuous by putting on a pair of sunglasses and a big dark leather jacket in the middle of June, and one of the hottest days of the summer we had here in Ireland. Like, it was 23, 24 degrees, splitting sunshine, and walks around the car park dropping USB keys. But the security guard saw him and went, "Somebody here is," they thought he was breaking into the cars, first of all, because he stuck out with his black leather coat. And uh, I got a photograph of my guy being on premises from the CISO. So the security guards took a captured CCTV image of him, sent it to the CISO, and the CISO sent it to me saying, "Better look next time." But the sting in the story is that colleague eventually moved on to another company, and his going away cake, we had the bakers embed the picture of him from that CCTV image was the picture of him on his going away cake. Yeah, well, we don't negotiate. I don't believe you should. Well, you can. Negotiation has its place, in my opinion, and that's often where you're trying to delay the attackers long enough to a for you to confirm they actually have data, because ransomware actors nowadays act in different in several ways. One is they encrypt your data and hold that to ransom, but they also threaten to release your data onto the internet. So getting involved in the negotiations can help you confirm whether or not they actually have data or what type of data they may have, other than you kind of going, oh, yeah, I better take this criminal at their word that they have my data. And it also gives you time to maybe try and recover the systems. But now, my stance is I wouldn't recommend to our clients never pay a ransom for various different reasons. Like you're supporting criminal infrastructure, etc. You've no guarantee you're going to get your data back or recover your data. You've no guarantee they're never going to release your data in the future. Then they're not going to double dip and come back to you in 6 months' time and say pay another ransom or release it. Because criminals by their nature aren't the most trustworthy people. But it is a business decision at the end of the day for many organizations. If they feel the cost of recovery or the time to recover is going to take too long, that could result in them being out of business. Maybe the payment is a way to go. Uh, but thankfully, all the instances we've been involved in so far, and I'm probably putting a jinx on it now, our clients have never had to pay and have all been able to recover the systems. Yes. Well, the first people you talk to is actually the business owners and manage the business. What outcome do you want? And obviously, the outcome is they want to get their business back up and running. And are you willing to pay the ransom? Uh, and if you are, how much can you afford? Because criminals will do their background, they will profile an organization, they will set the ransom at a figure. They're probably at the higher end of what they believe an organization can afford. Because if they've been effective enough, they've probably been in your account system, so they know what you may have lying around. Uh, so you do have to try and start. Uh, if you're kicking it off, you need to take a very softly approach. Don't be aggressive. Try and sort of say, look, we're looking to pay, but we need more time, or we can't afford it, and just work away from it there. But it's something to do that I would say would be very wary and very cautious. And if you're not confident doing it, do engage with somebody that has experience and is better able to do it. Of course, if you've got cyber insurance, the first thing you do is you talk to your cyber insurance firm as well, because they may have uh, a stance on whether or not the ransom should be paid, or how much they're going to pay of a ransom, or indeed they may have professional negotiators themselves. So have a look at that as well before you start talking to them directly. Yeah, well, one of the first things we recommend is, and this is from working with our time with Europol and BH Consulting and our research are still both partners of this initiative. It's called the No More Ransom initiative. So there's a website called nomoreransom.org. And anytime Europol have come across encryption keys or their partner cybersecurity companies have come across decryption keys for different ransomware strains. They're posted onto nomoreransom.org. So you can copy a file or a piece of information that has been encrypted, and No More Ransom will run tests against that file to see can it be decrypted, and if it can, it'll say here's the decryption key. So if you're lucky, the decryption key is there. If not, well then, yeah, you're stuck with either recovering from your backup. Hopefully, the backup has been secured and it hasn't been interfered with, or rebuilding from scratch, or paying the ransom and hoping that the decryption key will work. Uh, Software vendor end of quarter will always want to meet their figures, so they're an easier. The salesperson may be more forgiving end of quarter. Now, don't go and say that to your own colleagues there, Karl. Keep it between us. If you want to negotiate with a security vendor, do it at end of quarter when they're trying to reach their figures. Uh, Ransomware gangs, they've got so many things going on, and uh, they probably they don't have the same maybe shareholder, stockholder, stock market uh, pressures to make sure they meet certain figures. Yeah, I'd rather negotiate with a sales vendor than a ransomware gang. Yes. Uh, that's a very good question, and to be quite honest, Karl, I'm not sure how best to answer that. Uh, our approach, so when we're working with a client, as I said, our approach has fundamentally been focusing on recovery. So getting systems back up again, remediating the problem, and we occasionally, so like not every ransomware incident do we jump into negotiations. It's only occasionally where we're going, okay, maybe we may have to pay, this ransom may have to be paid, so we're looking for kind of proof of life. Or secondly, we're kind of going, okay, maybe we need to just delay a bit further. But companies think about, oh my God, our data is going to be released on the internet. We could be in trouble with the Information Commissioner's Office or the Data Protection Commissioner or what. But in reality, if you suffer a ransomware breach and personal data has been compromised, you're legally obliged to report it to your supervisory authority anyway. So regardless of whether or not the ransomware gang is going to release your data, you still have to report it. So the breach has happened. And I think the thing I always say to companies is your best bet is to be transparent. Uh, any sort of breach, ransomware or otherwise, be as transparent as possible, be as honest as possible, and communicate as often as you can to different people to make sure there's no news vacuum. Uh, because I think today an accepted truism that you're not going to be judged if you suffer from a breach, because it can happen to the best of us. There's no such thing. Yeah, there's no such thing as 100% security. Nobody can guarantee to be 100% secure. What you may be judged on, though, is how you react to that instant and how So, we have, and I'm probably going to struggle getting examples at the top of my head, but we've seen issues in the past where companies have had terrible responses to incidents, denied they've had a breach and then try and minimize the breach and then suddenly discover, oh yeah, actually this breach is much more involved than it was, and it was by sophisticated nation state attackers, and then subsequently down the road we find out it was a 17-year-old in who in college who broke in. So to me, that's the most important thing is too often the focus is given on the attackers, on the criminals in a breach, be that a ransomware attack or whatever breach. We kind of have this uh, imagery, I think, in cybersecurity that corporations are bad, and if they have a breach, well, they should have done better. But look how cool the attacker was, and look how cool the hackers were. Whether they're criminal gangs or not. Uh, so we need to get out of that mentality, because organizations are victims just the same as you and I would be a victim if we got mugged on the way home from the pub some night. Uh, we're all still victims. And we need to make sure that a victim of a crime is supported as best as possible, and that the impact of that crime on the victim is minimized as best as possible as well. So I think that's where our focus needs to be, as an industry, and as industry media need to refocus on that and sort of realize, this is where the pain is and the hurt is, and this is where the victims are. These people over here who are breaking into systems aren't necessarily the Robin Hoods or the heroes that we think they are. And, we should balance that a lot. Exactly. Yeah. They're human. And lots of breaches are down because people are just doing their job. Somebody's busy, they click on a link in an email because they thought it was genuine. They didn't have the time to, right click on the link and read through all the URL to make sure it's the proper one, or right click on the sender's address to make sure that it matches who the sender is meant to be, uh, or the IT person who has got 20 different projects ongoing and hasn't had time to roll out the latest Microsoft patches because their patch management system has been offline for a month. But that's not as important as keeping the point of sale systems up and running, or other stuff. So you know people don't deliberately go out to cause a breach. Well, okay, you might have a small, minuscule, but exactly. But the people who we should blame for breaches are the criminals who caused them. We do. That's right. Sure, yeah. It's the Irish CERT annual cybercrime conference. So it's on November the 10th in the Aviva football stadium here in Dublin. So great location. We have some excellent speakers lined up so far. We have Mikko Hipponen is going to be speaking at it from F-Secure. Jay Abalu, CISO for Avast, is going to be speaking at it. Raj Samani from Rapid7 is speaking at it. Rich Mogul from Faramon, he'll be talking about cloud security. Dave Lewis from Cisco, Duo Security. So some excellent speakers lined up so far, and we've representatives from from other organisations that are in the process of being confirmed. So we can't say them just now, but and it's all for the very high cost of €50. So well, the conference side, the IRISART website, iriss.ie, uh, we have a page on the conference there, so with links to the registration page and everything on that as well. Yeah, there you go. I'm sure she'd love to go to a security conference for her birthday. So can we go back to talking about negotiating with ransomware operators? That's much easier, I think. Oh, that a technology or a tool is going to solve your cybersecurity problems. And I think that's a big problem we have in IT security. Many of us are technologists, so we think in binary bytes and bits and bytes, ones and zeros. So we've got a problem, buy a tool, fix the problem, move on. Security is not that. Security is not ones and zeros. It's different shades of grey, and not one tool or even many different tools are going to solve your problem. You have to, as you said, Karl, around people are probably the biggest element in it. So that's to me it's the biggest myth. You know, buy this tool and it's going to solve a cybersecurity problem. No, it's not. I don't have a to-do list as such. These things just happen. But look, I'm passionate about cybersecurity. I've always have been since way back when I saw that first computer virus. It just got my uh, juices flowing to coin a phrase. And look, whatever I can do to make this world that little bit of a better place for others, well then, yeah, so be it. Oh God, not yeah, yeah, no, there's uh, like a key passion for me actually comes back to the question you had there. I think what we need to do as an industry is look at ways we can better embrace non-techie people in this environment and get rid of the macho approach that many people take. Like I've gone to conferences and I've gone to seminars, and you think you've just met with SEAL Team 6 with the way some of the people go on about, like they're they're the cyber equivalent of Jason Bourne or something like that. End of the day, our jobs and our roles is to protect systems which protect people. And that's the way I look at it. By protecting systems, we're protecting people. And the more people we can get involved from different backgrounds, diversities, uh, uh, different backgrounds, different races, different genders, everything, experiences, skills, the better we can protect those systems and better we can protect people at the end of the day. Oh, thanks for having me. Come, come to Dublin and we'll have plenty of beers and plenty of stories.